Howdy, y'all. In this episode, we'll start from working on the outside, and we're working on 4 covers here for the upper cabinets inside the van. And just shows you I took the cover off of them, of the frame, because they were delaminating. And you could see in the top right corner there is a pin nailer that I'm using to secure it to the fronts. And what I do at first, as you can see in this slide, is I'll just put wood glue all around the framing, and then going over there, and I just put the old fronts back on and pin nail it down, so I don't really need to use any clamps to get the glue to adhere after that, since the pin nails do that job. And so yeah, I had to replace 4 of those. 2 of them I was able to reuse the old fronts, but 2 I had to cut some fresh laminate. So then just one shot here of like the drawer fronts. You can see that I had put some blue tape around the edge banding there, or edges of it. I'm going to stain that section where the blue tape is a dark walnut color, but for the fronts of the doors and drawers I painted white. And then I'll just show you here a rough in of the drawers and cabinet facings. I think this is just painted white. I don't think I had stained them around the edging yet, but that's a preview of what's to come. And on the previous video episode, you saw me rebuild the front end of this cabinet here, where it used to be the bed, or one of the couches behind the driver's seat there. And you can see on the floor the paint where it's white, and then where it goes to wood color. That's how far out the cushion section or the couch section was. But I cut that in half, as I had mentioned before, and it'll just be batteries and electrical stuff back behind there. And you can see on the left there, looks like I started rebuilding the kitchen cabinet section, and there you go. And you can see that I had purchased a removable camp stove and oven, and I thought about putting in a permanent unit, but I thought this would be pretty cool to have one that I could just pick up, pull out, and then do some cooking outside. And then it would just leave more space there if I needed to store something, if I didn't feel like bringing the camp stove. And then down on the right section there, I bought a 12-volt refrigerator. They have a lot of the 12-volt ones are like cooler aspects, where you're opening the top and then putting everything down in the bottom. But I liked that this one is, a standard refrigerator, but it's just operating on 12-volt, not 110 or propane. So simplified that. And then what I did here was I had pretty much repurposed the old kitchen framing. Went with the same spot for the sink and where the refrigerator goes, but I had to do a little bit of customizing, obviously, because the refrigerator ended up being smaller, so I got it off the ground, but I kept pretty much the same drawer fronts, and I think I adjusted them a little bit, and then I started putting the tongue groove pieces on there. Some of them had been sitting in the sun, and some not, so you can see there above that middle top drawer, there's 2 different shades of wood tone there, but I think they're evening out as the year has gone by. And this was mid-January of last year, 2021, I believe, and we had a nice sunny day, so Penny decided to supervise in her little supervisor chair and get some vitamin D. And since I was on the outside and it was a nice day, this is the propane tank that originally came with the van, and it was underneath. I just didn't like where it sits, and it was old, and I could constantly smell just a little bit of propane, so some seals are obviously old and need to be redone. So I just decided to take it out, because I'm pretty much only going to have the hot water on demand running off propane, so we'll just use a separate tank for that. So just thought I'd show you this old unit. And here, this piece of wood here, it was originally 2x4s from a garage in Portland, Oregon that had been torn down, built in the 30s. So this is old growth Doug Fir 2x4s that I'd milled down. And if you'd seen my video of my tiny house build, I used the kitchen counter top in the, not in the kitchen, sorry, in the bathroom. I made it out of these. So I had extra chunks of it because I was going to do the kitchen counters as well, but I ended up going with something else. So I had a bunch of this left over, so I decided to mill it into the kitchen countertop and desktop in the van, which worked out perfectly because I had just enough to finish it. So what I did was, there's a lot of glue and it wasn't very flat, so I first used a hand plane to get a lot of the glue pieces off, and then run it through my old benchtop planer. And then so I had a bunch of pieces, and those are all the ones that I had of that specific length. So then I put them on my bar clamps and glued the edges and put them all in a row and tried to get it as flat as I could. And then here's just one rough end, just setting it up on top of where it's going to go. Thought it looked pretty nice. And here's one section that's mostly done. I still had to sand it and stain it and then lacquer it, but you get the point there. So that was just the main one. And then this section, I think this one is just to the right of the countertop as you've seen it before, but I can't quite remember. But here's, actually it's just the section that is kind of in the transition where it goes from as deep as the kitchen countertop is, and then when I move over to this slide, I'm kind of making it go down into 3 stages because I didn't want to have it all the same depth, especially right by the driver's seat, because those seats are so low back. If I do get in an accident or whatnot, and if I have, my head flies back, I don't want to crack my head on the kitchen counter, so I kind of move it into this step pattern. So that's me here just setting it up to glue it up, and I do the same thing where I just put the glue on each one of the ends, lay it down, and then I had to get tricky with the bar clamps on this one so that I could get it all glued up and with pressure. But it worked out. And these little pieces come up here. This one goes behind the portable camp stove and oven, and that's why you can see that kind of C shape on the left side. And then just got it all glued up and clamped down. So we'll go from working on the kitchen countertop to an outside project. Since it was a beautiful day, I figured it was time to take the old skylight and vent from the bathroom off, and also replace the vent cover for the black water tank up there. And you can see that in the middle on the left side there for the skylight cover, there's some cracking in the fiberglass. So I just went and got some 2-part epoxy, mixed it up, and covered up that section. Not so pretty, but we're just worried about function up there. And then you can see the new black water tank vent cover as well. Just put some butyl tape around there and screwed it back in, and as well as putting butyl tape around the skylight opening, and just got the standard RV one. Those are only about $20. Has a little fan on the inside as well, but is not as fancy as my Max Air fan that's in the center of the van. And since it was a sunny winter day, and we just had a fairly sunny winter day here, I'm longing for beautiful summer days out at the property. And so I'll leave you off here with a couple shots that I took. I think this was last July. Beautiful sunsets on the Puget Sound at my neighborhood, and it's a little boat launch into the Puget Sound, a little park there that we have in my neighborhood. And hopefully one of these days I'll get to launch my boat in there and cruise around and show you guys that part of the world. So anyway, hope all is well with you guys, having a great start to your new year, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right, take care.